working on this 2013 Ford Edge. It's a front wheel drive limited, and I've got to pull the heater core. It's just failed. So I want to talk about some tips and tricks on just all the nuances of what it goes into. Just as I had to go through this, there's little things I didn't even know about. I thought I'd share and see if it'd help you out. So you've got to drain the coolant from the cooling system. Let me show you where that's at. So underneath the driver's side, right up in here, let's see, where my pliers are touching, you gotta give that a full turn and pull out on it, and it'll drain down here. I found that these shorter vice grips fit in there well and get the job done better than a regular pair of pliers. For ease of access, I took off just all the inlet tubes, turbo tubes and all that stuff. Those are the coolant pipes that go to the heater core. So went ahead, after I drained the coolant, went ahead and pulled those, let those drain into a drip pan underneath because it'll drain out. And then I took my air compressor and blew out the rest of the coolant that's in there, because when you take this out, it's going to leak inside the car if you don't. Also down here, the AC lines, those have to be disconnected. So here's your Schrader valve. So have that, evacuated into a canister. But then there's just one 10mm nut that goes onto that little section right there. And this bracket right here is what secures those in there. And then they just literally pull out. So now they're loose and disconnected from the inside. So there's tons of obviously electrical connections that have to be disconnected from the inside view here. Not in any particular order, but your fuse box has to be disconnected, your emergency brake cable, these wiring connectors that attach underneath the dash, and this one as well, the wiring connector from the brake. And you come over here. So the door panel I had to remove because on the bolt side there's going to be a bolt here and here, which are easy to get to, but then you've got this bolt right here that won't come out with the door attached. So you can either, one, remove the door, or two, you can pull back on the trim. This wiring connector goes through the trim and then goes into this door panel here. And what sucks is because the dash is still attached at this point, you've got to reach from underneath into this hole and try to maneuver these clips so it'll release from there. So that really does suck. I did use some different tools to try to help pry from the bottom side and the front side while pushing my arm through the hole on this side. It sucks, it took a while, but it does come out okay. And then this bolt here is, let's see, what size is that? A T50 is what that is. And you can't put your ratchet end on the back of it and have room, so I use an 8mm ratcheting wrench to slide over it, and then you can just ratchet wrench it far enough to get over there. The seats have to, they don't have to come out, but they have to be disconnected, and they are 18mm bolts that hold those in place. So just take them out there, and there's two in the back, and then the seat can just, it can move and get out of the way, because there's these side panels on the center console that have to come out. So the dash itself, you got to take the cover off of the glove box, and then there's only a few all-in screws that you have to get a hold of, but see what I can show you here. So this would be the passenger side, and these connect on the right, the passenger side firewall on the door side. Those come off, and then you got some connectors that go to the center console. They have to come off, and then you got all your stereo components in the center. There's two bolts here, and then there's an attachment bar on the driver's side here that has to come off. Same over here, there's a bolt that goes there. And you've got all these wiring disconnects that have to come off. And then these attach to that power panel. I think I called it a fuse box a while ago. That's on the driver's side, door side. Those come off. Here's the 2 bolts that go through the door side that you can easily get to with your ratchet. So under the panel here, the carpet, so you got your drain tube that has to come off. That's really stubborn on there, so just give it a little bit of time, don't rip it. And then down here is where those 2 bolts go on the driver's side, and this is that swing arm bracket I showed you just a second ago where the other nut goes. Alright, so on the passenger side, you obviously got to take the trim panel off, and then this is the other side of the connectors that have to come off that I showed you earlier. There's only, I think, 3 connections there. And then this is what some of those connections you saw on the wiring earlier just go to. These here, there's the unclip. So on the passenger side, you've got the 1 bolt, and you've got this little carpet plug that goes over here. And then right here, there's 1 wire that you have to disconnect as part of the dashboard system that goes from here. So you just unplug it here, and then it comes out with the dash. And then here's your shift lever. It goes right here. So I'm about to take this unit out, and here's the heater core itself. Is right here. The evaporator core, I think, is on the underside of this one. And you can see as it comes through here, through the firewall, where the hoses disconnect. So this is the inlet side, and this is where it comes out at. So if you were just checking to see the coolant version of this, so if the car's hot, it comes in here hot, it should come out here hot. And in my case, it's coming in hot, and it's like room temperature up here. And after many flushes and everything, it just wasn't doing anything. So you do have to take this whole unit out as one piece to get to this. So on the bottom side, there looks like there's 2 10mm nuts there. There's one, another one, and another one, and I'll have to look on the other side and see if there's anything else hidden. So also these A-pillar covers have to come off, so they just pull out, and then it's got this little attachment piece here, and then if you've got the tweeter, you just disconnect it here. It's in the console. The little feet covers that go on down here, so just so you can see what those look like, they attach with these clips. And getting this middle one off isn't a problem. It's getting this plastic separated from this piece of plastic. You can see they've got little hooks on the side, but it is more of a bear than it looks like. And there's this like a T20 maybe, something like that, that goes on there. So just FYI. Okay, so as far as battery disconnection, you need to leave the battery connected so you can get the seats moved forward and backward, and so you can get the gear shift park into a different gear to get the center console separated. But then once you've got the seats out and that done, and it's beneficial to keep this window open here so you can reach in and help close the door, because this is going to be in the way. Let's look at the other parts. Alright, so I'm just going to show you some parts while they're out to give you an idea. So this is the armrest, and then this is the center console that goes towards the dash, where the parking lever sits right here. The cable comes up through there. You've got a few bolts that you've got to disconnect. I think they're 7mm, but then this side panel you have to remove, which is why the seats have to be removed. And this would be the driver's side segment of it. And it's got my bag of bolts that go with the center console. These are the bolts that hold in the actual gear shift lever. So here's the lever mechanism. It's got the 1 cable you have to disconnect, and then it's got the 4 bolts. So this is the underside. There's the top where the gear shift lever knob is, and there's 2 screws that come out of that hold it onto that rod. And then there's the 2 disconnects right there. So you got the stereo faceplate. I think it has 1 connection, and then just unbolt that top HVAC unit. And then more stereo pieces. and the faceplate for the stereo, the touch screen. You know, if you do the door panel, it's here. You've got 2 connections there. The steering column, let's look at that for a moment. So, steering wheel, you've got your upper segment, and then it's going to turn, obviously, and then it connects there and goes down to this rod that moves. Now this does not disconnect. Initially I thought I could just leave this connected at the base of the floor and just remove this, it would pop up. That is not the case. There is a bolt that holds on at the base, and it goes around a fitting where that bolt rounds off at. Let me show you. So let's see, down here on the floorboard where that groove is, that angle, that's where that bolt rides and keeps it in place right there. This hole right here, there's a bolt that comes through the firewall into the dashboard to secure it from that direction. So it's this bolt that goes through that hole. I'll show you the bracket. Okay, so when it goes through the firewall, it screws into that bolt hole right there. Now on this side, this one right here is the one that is a pain to get to on the driver's side door. That T50 or whatever it was, it goes through that one. And if you just want to see how this looks in the back. So this is the passenger side, and here's the glove box area. There is a bolt right here that you access through this glove box opening. It goes right here into the firewall. And it goes into that little pop out section right there. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take this out and I'll see what happens there and we'll come back. Okay, so the heater core is out, and the problems we had along doing so is these heater vents down here that connect to the heater core. They're pretty stiff. This one we was able to pop a clip out right here, right down here, and get it to move to the side. This one we had to go ahead and pull the carpet all the way back, and there's some clips down there, and then on the underside there's some clips on the left and right side of that, and move the wiring cable, and that gave us enough room to get this out of the way. And then you can just pull the unit back and out and up, and then it's pretty light. So let's go take a look at it. Okay, so we'll take a peek around the outside of it just so you can see where all the blend door actuators are. So that's where the heater core is right there, and then that's the evaporator right there where the AC lines go. So I'm just going to take this thing apart and see what it takes to get the heater core out. Okay, so the first piece with all the screws that come off is just basically it's the blend diverter for the HVAC, and then there's the screws that came out of it. So the next steps looks like we've got to take out, this is the underside of it, all the screws that go around the bottom side. Okay, so we got all the screws out of the perimeter, and there's quite a few of them. And then there's a couple of clips, that one and that one, that they both broke off. And then there's a couple of these little clips here that just attach to the side pieces here. And then this, you just gotta kind of pry it up a little bit, and then it'll go ahead and come off. So you've got your blower motor, and then the box, and then this is your evaporator core, or whatever it's called, for their air conditioning unit, not the heater core. So this clearly needs to be cleaned. But while you're in here, if you see any signs of oil, you know you've got a leak and you need to replace this while you're in here. Okay, so a little tidbit on the evaporator core for the AC unit coming out. You gotta get your Allen wrench, Allen set, and unscrew these guys. Okay, so then pull them out. And it's going to be set in there pretty well, so you need to get your pliers. And you got to give it some good wiggles, and eventually that'll come out. And you've got those seals in there, so probably have to get new seals. And there's the underside of it. So then I should be able to just pull this out. I need 2 hands maybe. Okay, I've been fiddling with this thing, and even though if you look under the evaporator core, you can see the heater core in there, right up in the fence. But as I'm going through this, what I'm finding, it looks like right through here, this has a tab that separates here, and then up here as well, looks like it would separate, and then this unit would come off, and then I believe this separates from this base by the screws around here, and then this heater core should slide out of that slot. So I'm going to stop what I'm doing here and focus on that one. Okay, so this piece here is 2-piece, and there's a screw in the side of it that you unscrew and then just unhook those tabs, and this piece slides out. Okay, so I've got the screw removed from here and from all around the base. This one down here is going to require a little nubby guy. I use my little thumb wheel drive for it. Now this should, you got the screws up here that come out and around, and this should just separate at this point from the base. Give us access. It's a little wobbly, but yeah, there it goes. So I guess we can disconnect the wiring harness, move that out of the way, and then I would assume this just slides out. I probably should take, yeah, I don't want to mess up those wires, so I'm going to take this clip out. Okay, so this has got 2 clips on it, one in the front, one in the back. Pull it out, push it under. But then this, when you start to pull this out, it's hitting this base. So I'm going to pop out this screw and see if there's anything else that's potentially holding this on so I can get this all the way out. Okay, so it's separated enough, but we'll say the evaporator core piece of this, there are clips that had broken. So when you're pulling on it, just be careful. But we should be able to just pull this out now. Get that wire out of the way. Need my other hand. Okay, so it's out. I mean, what sucks is that it looks fine, but I know it's not performing fine, so we'll see. Don't think I would say different about this is obviously don't unplug the evaporator core if you're not replacing it, because now I got to get new seals for this, and I could have avoided that, but it's the first time doing it, so obviously we'll just put it back together the opposite way. I hope it helped you out. Thanks.